I have been saying for years, ageism is the last allowable prejudice that we can have in this country. You can always do the age jokes.
Bill Maher is at it again, this time making headlines for destroying CNN and defending none other than Trump. Yeah, you heard that right. The man who's built an empire on ripping into the president just threw down in a way no one saw coming. The crowd? Oh, they were on their feet, cheering, clapping, the whole shebang.
End racism, which they had written in the end zone, right? And when
why? It just seems silly. I mean,
to do it or not to do it?
Why get rid of it?
What happened, you ask? Well, Bill Maher turned the tables, flipping the narrative and calling out the mainstream media for their obsession with bashing Trump. But not only that, he straight up defended the man, something many thought Bill would never do. And guess what? It got wild. We're talking about the kind of drama that makes you rethink everything you knew about political commentary. What triggered it? How did CNN react? And what's next for Bill Maher's unpredictable political journey? Let's get into it.
Voters keep saying over and over again, we are not comfortable with this level of immigration. I understand why. It doesn't make you a racist to say that.
Let's set the stage. Bill Maher, the guy who's built his career on throwing shade and cracking jokes, is about as unpredictable as they come. But on this particular episode, Bill wasn't joking around. Oh no, he came out swinging. This wasn't just another dig at Trump. This was a full-blown challenge to the media, particularly CNN.
I think the Democrats blew it, as they always do with this kind of stuff, because they've had 4 years. What was all the delay about? Why are we coming to the end? Of course they're going to try to run out the clock.
In the world of cable news, CNN's been the go-to network for covering the Trump administration. But Bill Maher? He wasn't buying it. He started by calling out CNN for their blatant bias and obsession with all things Trump, particularly how they'd covered him through the years. According to Bill, CNN's relentless focus on Trump's every move had become a disservice to the truth. The media, Maher argued, was so fixated on Trump's flaws that they completely missed the bigger picture, the role they played in making him the political force he became.
It is now official. CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president, defeating Vice President Kamala Harris and making a political comeback.
It was a point that hit home for a lot of people. Think about it. For years, CNN's wall-to-wall coverage of Trump kept him in the spotlight, and in doing so, they became complicit in fueling the fire of his rise. Bill didn't pull punches. He was laying out the inconvenient truth that the media, in their quest for ratings and drama, were part of the reason Trump became such a polarizing figure in American politics.
Oh, I can tell you why.
I know, but it's just like...
Because it was stupid to begin with.
Yeah, but
Let me ask you, who's it for? And if you're a racist and you see end racism in the end zone, you're going to stop being a racist?
Now, it wasn't just a nice little rant about Trump. Maher went straight for CNN's jugular. He pointed out that CNN had become obsessed with sensationalism, feeding the public a steady diet of Trump drama, while completely ignoring the real issues that should have been at the forefront of political conversation. Maher didn't sugarcoat it. He said it like it is. CNN's coverage, according to him, wasn't about journalism. It was about keeping Trump in the headlines. They weren't focused on policies. They were more interested in clicks and views. Bill didn't hold back when he called out their hypocrisy. He said, "How many times have we seen CNN reporters ask, 'Why isn't Trump doing this?' only to flip the script and attack him when he does it? Sounds pretty familiar, right?" That's because CNN's entire narrative had become about pointing fingers at Trump for everything, even when there was no clear reason to.
Terrific job, and is being recognized by more and more people. Where are you, Freddie? Stand up. Let the people see you. Fred Douglas.
And don't even get him started on CNN's so-called fact-checking. Maher didn't mince words there either, accusing CNN of presenting their fact checks as if they were gospel. According to Bill, the network's attempt at presenting itself as neutral was, well, a joke. CNN's idea of objective journalism, in Maher's view, was nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to push their own bias under the guise of credibility.
Collection of ideas that are not building on liberalism, but very often undoing it. I mean, 5 years ago, Abraham Lincoln was not a controversial figure among liberals.
Hold up, we're not done yet. Just when you thought Maher had thrown enough punches at the media, he did the unthinkable. He defended Trump. Yes, you read that right. Bill Maher, the man who's made a career out of bashing Trump, came out swinging in defense of his presidency. And the crowd? They went wild.
Will you visit the crash site? Now, every other politician would go, of course, it was a tragedy. And he went, it's the water. What do you want me to do, swim there? Yeah.
Bill made an important point. He highlighted Trump's accomplishments, the things the media refused to talk about. Unemployment rates at record lows, the stock market surging, and a booming economy. Maher argued that while CNN was busy obsessing over Trump's Twitter rants, they completely ignored the positive changes under his administration. Look, I'm not a fan of everything Trump does, Bill admitted, but you have to give him credit where credit's due.
By reviving Trump's asylum ban, Biden has undermined American values, and then they all stand back and go, we don't want to be called a racist, so we will not make a move on immigration. It's going to get them at election day.
This wasn't some soft defense, either. Bill called Trump the ultimate disruptor, the man who shook up Washington's status quo. Maher argued that Trump wasn't just a politician. He was the political earthquake the system needed. The man knew how to manipulate the media to get what he wanted. And Maher said that's exactly why he resonated with so many Americans. He knew how to break free from the media's chokehold and play the game on his terms. And honestly, people were here for it.
Trump isn't interested or respectful of
Nor
debate.
does he need it anymore.
Well,
Because he won. And I mean, in the past, I mean, he did have to show up to debate. He debated Harris.
Bill Maher's words echoed far beyond that studio, sending shockwaves through not just CNN, but through the entire media landscape. His analysis wasn't just a moment of TV drama. It was a blistering critique of how the media has become a self-sustaining monster, fueling its own power through controversy and sensationalism.
Yeah, America's in shock that the guy whose catchphrase was "you're fired" is firing everybody in government.
As Maher pointed out, CNN's fixation on Trump wasn't merely about keeping the audience entertained. It was about control. By presenting Trump as a constant spectacle, CNN became complicit in his rise. The network gave him a platform, whether they liked it or not, by making every decision he made, every tweet, every ridiculous statement, the headline of the day.
Some people at 70 act like they're 100 years old, and some people are like 40-year-olds. But this was a case, okay, where Biden was too old.
Think about it. Trump wasn't simply the president. They turned him into the story. CNN, in its pursuit of high ratings, found itself feeding the beast. Bill Maher argued that this wasn't just about sensational headlines. It was about evading the real conversations the American people desperately needed to have. Instead of discussing the actual policies that were shaping the nation, issues like healthcare, jobs, income inequality, foreign relations, Trump's every word became the center of attention, pushing deeper, more substantive debates out of the public eye.
64% of Latinos support giving the president authority to shut down the U.S. borders. 62% of registered voters would support all migrants.
Maher's take on CNN was raw, unfiltered, and laser-focused. He didn't just call them out for their bias. He exposed the media's unhealthy obsession with keeping people hooked on drama while ignoring the underlying issues that needed to be addressed. He blasted them for keeping audiences obsessed with scandal instead of policy. As Maher said, you care more about Trump's personal life than about the American people's actual lives. It was a jab that landed squarely on the jaw of an industry that prided itself on its supposed credibility.
I don't think it was even strategic. I think you give Trump sometimes too much credit for playing four-dimensional chess, and he just happened to think of it then.
But this wasn't just another Hollywood-style takedown of Trump. It wasn't about name-calling or empty rhetoric. It was about exposing a deeper systemic issue within the media's approach to political discourse. The left and right may have their differences, but Maher was clear. The media itself was part of the problem, perpetuating a narrative that wasn't real journalism. It was an entertainment industry pretending to hold the government accountable.
Donald Trump could go to the tomb of the unknown soldier and say, well, maybe if he'd done something, he wouldn't be so unknown.
This was Bill Maher stepping into the spotlight, not just as a comedian, but as a commentator, exposing the underbelly of the American media system. While many pundits might have been content to pander to their base, Maher took the harder route, calling out the hypocrisy of both the right and left, and exposing how the media had come to serve its own interests rather than the people's.
Abraham Lincoln was not a controversial figure among liberals. We liked him. Now they take his name off schools and tear down his statues. Really? Lincoln isn't good enough for you?
And then, the chaos of social media. It wasn't long before Maher's remarks sparked a firestorm online. Some hailed him as a truth-teller, a lone voice in the wilderness, calling out the media's double standards. But of course, the usual suspects weren't happy. Social media erupted with claims that Maher had betrayed his progressive roots by defending Trump, even if it was on specific policies where credit was due.
So, right, let's just not instinctively hate somebody because of who they are and what team they're on. I was going to say, I loved it when Trump moved the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. I thought that was a great thing.
And this is where Maher once again proved he wasn't interested in being liked. He was interested in being real. He stood firm against the backlash, refusing to back down from his message. His words were sharp, cutting through the noise of partisan outrage. "I'm not here to make you feel good about your views. I'm here to tell you the truth."
Right. Trump voters, people who really like him, they certainly are those. And then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy.
This wasn't just a call for honesty. It was a call for a deeper, more nuanced conversation. Bill Maher was challenging the media to hold itself accountable. He wasn't just criticizing Trump. He was criticizing the entire structure of American discourse, which had devolved into a cycle of sensational headlines, superficial debates, and scandal-driven coverage. Maher was asking for a return to substance, for meaningful political conversation that goes beyond Twitter soundbites.
It's kind of a cancer on progressivism. I've been saying this for years, that first of all, you have to stand up to Twitter. Twitter isn't us. Twitter isn't the rank and file Democrat. It's not even most liberals.
His defense of Trump, in this case, wasn't about agreement with everything the man did. It was about acknowledging what had been ignored for far too long: the economic progress and the policy victories that actually helped millions of Americans. Maher wasn't glorifying Trump. He was exposing the media's refusal to address the full scope of his presidency.
You think it's hard being a black man in a white man's world? Try being a white woman who feels bad about you being a black man in a white man's world.
Bill Maher's takedown of CNN wasn't just about one network. It was about the direction of the media as a whole. If the industry had any hope of regaining credibility, it needed to stop treating politics as a circus. It needed to start reporting facts, holding people accountable, and challenging narratives that had been written for them. His challenge was simple. It's time for the media to stop feeding the outrage machine and start focusing on what actually matters.
When they say you have Trump derangement syndrome, and I would just like to say to my Republican friends, it's not deranged to fear this.
No.
It's not deranged to find this alarming.
No. If he says it.
Maher's message was clear. We have to move beyond the partisan bickering. We need to hold the media accountable for the way it's shaping public opinion. His words were a shot across the bow to the networks, the reporters, and the politicians who have made a career out of outrage and scandal. The real work, understanding complex issues, engaging with difficult topics, and debating policies, is harder, but it's essential.
See if they live up to their word. Trump says he's going to deport 12 million people. How are you going to get 12 million people back into Mexico? And today Trump said, I'm way ahead of you. Why do you think I left so many holes in the wall?
In the end, Maher wasn't just attacking CNN. He was calling for a cultural shift in American political discourse, one where the media can no longer get away with presenting a one-sided narrative under the guise of impartiality. As Maher said, the media's responsibility isn't to entertain us, it's to inform us. Whether or not that message sticks with CNN or the broader media remains to be seen, but Bill Maher has certainly forced the conversation in a direction it desperately needed to go.
But I think it's an asshole to nag us during a football game about something that doesn't change anything or any. If I'm not a racist and I see it, it doesn't matter. And if I am a racist, it's going to make me more of a racist.
So, what does this all mean? Is Bill Maher's defense of Trump a sign of things to come? Has he just given us a glimpse into the future of political discourse? One thing's for sure. Maher's bold statements have sparked a conversation. The media landscape will never be the same. What do you think? Did Bill Maher go too far, or is he just speaking the truth? Was CNN's coverage of Trump truly biased, or is the media just doing its job? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celeb Titbits for more explosive takes.